Htaccess. Thank you for being here. I work at a design firm. I'm actually a front-end Joomla developer. Keywords. Well, content is king. What are keywords? Keywords, keywords, keywords. They're how you get to your content. So just like in real estate, location, location, location. The three top are the ones I'm most familiar with. AdWords is free. It's a good way to find out what keywords are for your site or what other sites your competition are using and so forth. And I'll go through what this looks like right after this foil with SEMrush, which is limited free, which means it has limited things that you can do before you're charged. It's on a monthly basis, so that's not too bad. It's a pretty good tool. You'll see in a second. And then the one that, if you want to really get your hands dirty, is iBusiness Promoter, and that just has a whole bunch of stuff in it. All of the others are fantastic tools. I would recommend them all. It's just that I haven't spent as much time with them as I have with the first three.
What does iBusiness Promoter have as distinct from the other ones?
You know, rather than me answering that, I'd rather you go and look at it. It has everything. It has a methodology, which I like, that gets you to, they say, if you use their methodology, that you'll be in the top 10 of the searches. So they almost guarantee if you use their methodology. So the thing I like about it is it has a methodology, and it walks you through, and it has a checklist for each step. So, you know, one of the steps in their methodology is keywords, and then they have 10 things. Have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done that? And then they have some built-in tools, like what you'll see in a second for keywords, that are proprietary to them. So they have those proprietary tools plus a methodology, and they walk you through with a checklist. So and they give you pretty reports that you can pass on to your clients. What you'll see if you use the SEMrush tool is you'll see organic keywords and AdWords keywords. So what I did is I put in one of my clients, Pasquesi.com. They're a Pasquesi Garden Center, their home and garden center. And so they come up pretty good on their keywords. So their URL, for example, Pasquesi Garden Center is what they're known as. One of their long-tail keywords they wanted. Popular annuals is another one, and so forth. So these are the keywords. You can see where they're positioned, the monthly volume that they have for their keywords. And then this column here, the estimated value of the traffic, it sort of gives you it's mislabeled up there, I believe. I would have called it value. They call it cost. It refers to that that KEI, the effectiveness of these two. So if you look of these first two, and you'd say, okay, I get more traffic with the first one, but the competition is less, and then less traffic on the second one, but there's more competition for it. So why would I have more competition for that? Well, because it's more generic, popular annuals as opposed to Pasquesi. So the cost is a little higher. So for these free tools where they don't have KEI index, the point is I wanted to let you know that you can sometimes look at the cost if you have to weigh which one was more important. Not all cases, but it's just a factor. And then the competition, is competition high or low for that? Same thing for the AdWords. So again, what I did is I put in the URL, and I'm getting all of the competition for organic. So these are URLs of my competitors, and they also have organic search and competitors in the ads search broken out. And then also Pasquesi has purchased ads, so for additional ads that they may want, these are other URLs. So the bottom line of this is it gives you a lot of information on the competitors, their keywords that they're using, and yours, and then it brings back the URL of your competitors based upon your keywords and their keywords matching up.
Is that all from SEM Rush?
This is all SEM Rush, right?
Okay.
Another client, I just want to show you the difference. They don't do any advertising. They have a few keywords, ranking top. They're happy with their ranking. So there's no e-words, no keywords for that. Just wanted to show you another example. After 5 tries, SEM Rush is going to throw you off. So you get 5 a day. Not too bad. But there are things that is limited as to what it shows you. So the best keywords. What are the best keywords? Well, they consist of more than one word. They're called long tail keywords, and it's usually 1 to 4. So 1 word is not very well targeted. The competition is very high. 4 is more likely if you have 4 words that you're searching for to purchase goods and services, and they bring you targeted visitors. So if you look at that on a graph where you might enter in camera as opposed to a Sony digital camera with 7 megapixel optical 3x optical zoom. Competition for camera is very high. The target audience is very low because they want to buy a camera, but they really going to maybe come back to your website. So you may have a different set of personas for different visits to your website. So long tail keywords, 3, 4, 2 to 4 is what's generally considered good amount of keywords. And don't forget that your keywords should be, you're living and breathing whatever your industry is. And so you say, well, obviously they're going to be looking for rhinoplasty. When, sit back and think about, do they know what that word even means? In your jargon, you use it every day. They might be searching for nose job. So it's important to find keywords that are targeting your real world customers.
And you wouldn't want to buy, if you were buying that, you'd want a negative out words like celebrity nose job, because that would be people searching for photographs that aren't relevant to what you're selling.
Right. By the way, I feel a little intimidated. There's an expert in the audience here.
No.
From Rss, large SEO firm in Chicago, small SEO firm, getting larger. So please, feel free.
I think your keywords being specific gets you value. So that's sorry.
Yep.
I'll be fine.
But you could put in, that you don't want certain keywords also. Keyword placement, where do you put them once you find them? So you have the gold nuggets to the king of, content is king. Where do you put them? Well, if you can get your URL to be the keyword that people are looking for, that would be great, but that's probably not going to happen. So where you want to put it in is your title. So you would probably have, like I said, your brand name, so your company name, with a pipe with the keywords for your page, or vice versa. Wherever you put your keywords depends. There's a meta keywords.
Yeah.
That is probably, I think, what you're saying. So in Joomla, there's a box that says put your meta keywords here, put your meta description here.
Yeah.
Okay, these are not those keywords. This is a title statement. All right, so in your title statement, it appears in the browser on the top of your page, so in your browser window, and your tab. So your tab name is what shows you your title statement. And so in that, your Google is looking for the title of that page. It's going to look other places too, but that's what this is referring to.
So putting like few sets of keywords right after.
Right, so some of those keywords, yes, you would put in into the title of your page.
But no more than 69 characters. Because Google won't look at more than 69 characters.
But no more than 69 characters.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you mentioned the URL, if you have a URL, let's say you have the name of your company is 2 words, like, I don't know, but it's 2 words, like auto
Repair.
displays or auto apparel or something like that. And, you name your company's auto apparel. Will it actually use each of the 2 words within it? And will that help you? Will either of the 2 words within it help you with the URL search?
Well, using them both together is better than using each separately.
Okay, because what I'm saying is the average person might not type in auto apparel. They might they might do some combination, say apparel in there someplace. Are you gonna pick up because apparel is one of the 2 words, some users?
Well, it would, but it may not rank as high because, it's just a single word.
Sure.
I think one of the things Dennis is gonna get to is you need to think of what people are searching for and not what you, well, it goes back to the nose job comment, right?
Right.
That you need to think about what they're searching on.
I think in a URL, the algorithm looks at it. If it's any part of the word that it's searching for is in your URL, it gives you some value to that.
Okay.
Unlike if it's in your text and you had auto repair as one word, it would not give you anything on auto or on repair.
Okay.
So I think they look at URLs and some of the other pieces slightly differently in the algorithm than they do when it's actual natural language. When they're looking for natural language, they're looking for the words auto repair together or singly in the article. So it's a little bit different.
Should
with
we
the
have
URL.
lots of URLs then within a website? That instead of having just sub pages, should we actually have lots of separate top level URLs?
Yes, not lots, but you should have more than one. So, you don't want people to be directed to your homepage, your homepage, your homepage. You may have other pages that have something of value other than just a homepage.
Right.
And
that should be a top level URL then.
Well, I don't know what you mean by
Not
top
necessarily
level.
top level. You don't want to have multiple URLs going to the same content. So if you have autorepairl.com, autorepairl.net, autorepairl. Whatever, unless you're doing a redirection that says this is the same content as the other one, you actually can get dinged for that.
Okay, but if they're separate content, like you have separate pages anyway, a lot of times with different articles about.
If they're separate pages and you've got yoursite.com/autoapparel, auto repair, auto whatever, yeah, that's actually not a bad thing to have.
Okay.
All right, so you have it in your URL. You have, if you're lucky, in your title, and then also in your article. So now Joomla is getting a good feel of what this page is all about. It's found at 3 places. And then you should also put your keywords in the first 100, 200 words of the first paragraph. I've heard also in the last paragraph. And in the meta description. That's the meta tag, and that's where you said in Joomla you would be typing in that box for the description. Now, meta keywords, not so much. The keywords, the meta keywords, there's a meta tag called meta keywords. And Google says, hey, we don't use meta keywords at all. Now they used to, people would stuff and put everything in there, and so they rather look into your content, your page title, your article title, your URL to see what your keywords are, rather than you telling them. Bing says, well, we look at it, but it's just a signal along with, thousands of others.
So on this title, did you put a comma after each keyword? There it says page keywords.
In your title,
Yeah, number 2.
you could if you want. Doesn't matter. Comma after each, that's fine. Another tool that you can use to help your site with search is our blogs. Remember our friend the panda? Fresh content, good content. Fresh being, Google says, every 90 to 180 days. One way, if you have blogs, you'll probably be doing that. And blogs allow you to have, an audience, and you can syndicate your blogs with Rss Feeds. But they are a huge, huge time commitment. So if you're going to have, or tell your customers to have blogging, it should be for a business purpose, not to bring up their SEO. It is a time commitment. People are going to come to the site if it's of value. If it's not of value, it's worth it. It's a waste of time.
I heard that if you write your blog in Google's Blogger, that you get more credit in their search. Is that correct?
I've not seen anything either way.
Okay.
The question was, is Blogger a better cause of search external blog than maybe Technocratic?
Well, one thing about that is if you're trying to drive traffic to your site, then you're giving away your traffic to Google.
Right.
So if you have your blog on your site, you're bringing people to your site, so you're getting more rank in Google in the first place, as opposed to having it on a third party, which then links to your site, which isn't quite as good.
So, where are you going to put your blog at? Well, you could put them in Joomla as articles, and don't forget you're going to have some kind of comment system. I don't think it's in the core in 3.0, I don't know, no. So there are good comment systems for Joomla articles, JComments, CompoJom, and there's also a free service just to handle comments, and that's called Discuss. So that's two alternatives. So that's two alternatives for comments if you're going to use out of the box Joomla blogging for out of the box Joomla articles for blogging. The other way you could have blogs is Joomla extensions. There's EasyBlog, JomBlog, and there's plenty of others. And the third way is the Blogspot or Blogger.com, which you had mentioned. If you use the EasyBlog extension, you get a lot of stuff with it. It's a great extension. I have personally not used it. I've heard my colleagues have, and they like it a lot. It has feed imports, team blogging, multiple blogs, email blogging, templates, its own inside comment system, and caption recaption. The feed burner comment system is, or I'm sorry, if you're going to have people looking at your blog, you're probably going to want to have a feed, an RSS feed on it. Feed burner is the feed that I would probably use if I was going to use a feed on my blog. I don't have a blog, but if I did, I would use this. It helps you, deliver, track your subscriptions. It allows, and the thing I really like about it is it allows email subscriptions. So if you have a page that you want people to subscribe to, it actually gives you HTML code where you could just put that page on it, and it comes, to them every time you update it, just like an RSS feed. So it's a little nicer if you're of the belief that most folks don't use feeds. I don't use feeds that often. How many? Just I'm curious. I use Atom or some other feeds. Okay, 2 out of 30, and we're a pretty technical crowd, so.
Joomla.org uses FeedBurner for their security notifications.
Okay, I don't know if you heard that. Joomla.org uses FeedBurner.
So if you use like iGoogle or My Yahoo or Google Reader, all of those are RSS readers.
Yeah, there's a ton of them out there. And so it's pretty easy to set up, and there's some information I have. By the way, at the bottom of these slides for your reference are references to the material on that slide if you want more information. I don't know if you can see it. I can see a couple people, but these slides will be posted. So for RSS feeds, if you're going to syndicate your feeds, you syndicate just an intro text or the full text. And there's a lot of debate about which way to go on this. With Panda just coming out, I'm thinking that this is sort of my opinion, that intro text is probably a little safer. And ask your syndication partners to include a link back to your original content, or in your content, in the intro, put a link back to yourself. And that's basically what Google recommends, is that you have a link back to your original website for that content. Yes, sir?
Dennis, on intro page, I couldn't really figure out what's the difference. Do you have to set up a separate intro page, or you just select the intro page and it chooses first 200 words or something like that? You know what's the difference?
The intro text on the Joomla page, is that the question?
Yeah, because when you do RSS feed, it says intro page or full page. Let's say you select intro page. Does it take like first 200 words or something like that of your article?
In Joomla?
Yeah.
There's if I remember, there's like a page, like an intro, a read more.
Everything before the read more tag.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
the intro text is considered what's before the read more, and then the full article is after it.
So if you didn't have read more, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. It may pick up the full article anyway, and it may put out something blank. I'm not sure exactly how it does it.
Okay.
But yeah, so the intro text, the read more text, is the intro. Is that if you're going to be using that article in Joomla as a blog. The next thing I want to cover is optimizing your site for speed, and why do you want a speedy site if you're interested in search. It increases user satisfaction, and it improves the overall quality of the web, and that's why Google says they like it. In fact, they say, well, they were asked, what is a fast site? And they said, well, anything that is 1.5 seconds or slower or longer is not a fast site. So they set the bar at 1.5 basically. And there's plenty of tools out there, page speed, why slow. Page speed, it's a Firebug add-on in the Firefox browser. Why slow is developed by Yahoo. I think it goes on to all browsers. There's web page test, webmaster tools in the site performance area. So there's a lot of ways to find the actual speed of your page load. Before you start optimizing, don't forget, set your baseline. I usually use more than one just to feel very comfortable with the baseline. So I use not only Google Analytics, but also Stat Counter. And I like to, because a lot of times up front when I'm doing development or I'm playing with a website, I leave my own tracks behind. So in Stat Counter, you can create a filter or a blocking cookie. You can do the same thing in Google Analytics with an IP filter. So you go into the site, you look at the Google Analytics, you look at the IP. If you don't know your IP, and you can tell that's you, and you put it into a filter. There's another way that, so that's if you're coming from the same IP all the time. If you're on a road and you have a computer and you want to use that and not be tracked in your own reports, you can have a simple document, just this code here, the body statement, with JavaScript, and what that does is it sets a variable, a strict variable, and it tells Google that you created a user variable, and it has a value called no report X, and you can use whatever value you want in there. So you might say, for your customer's name, for example, for me, Pasquesi, I'd say no Pasquesi. And so in your report, you would see that as a variable, and you can filter on that. And that would be on that computer as a cookie, wherever you took that computer. How else might you optimize your web pages? Minimize HTTP requests. How do you do that? Well, you combine files. Your script files, I've seen 6, 12, even higher separate script files, combining them into one. They're the same size, but you don't have to make a database call. You don't have to make an HTTP call. So there's a lot of time consumed by that communication for just getting the file back. Same thing for CSS. If you have images, the way to handle those is rather than having a bunch of images, all those little icons, or widgets you have on your page, use CSS sprites. If you're not familiar with those, it's basically taking all those images, putting them into one background image, and then using background image and background position to go to the actual image that you want to be displayed. And thirdly, use a CDN. And I'll cover what CDN is in a second. And remembering that 80 or 90% of the end user response time is spent downloading things from the page. So what a CDN is, or content delivery system, it's a large distributed system of servers. So this would be your host, and there's one server being hit. This distributes that onto a delivery system, a network, and so it offloads the load of your server. Plus, if you're geographically dispersed, it's closer to the network, to where your customer is. So, for example, Amazon, these are their edge servers, or on all the important network edges throughout the world. So that's what a content delivery network does for you. It disperses your content. I love a plugin that does everything very easily for you. It's a CDN plugin, but it's more than that. It takes your objects and it has e-tagging, so it may not even need to request an object if it's already in cache on the server. That's what the e-tag does. Helps you with. It takes all your CSS, takes all your JavaScript files, and puts them into one file, and it compresses them. Very nice. It takes all of your objects, and it has and expires and all of the headers. So if you don't need to get the content, go to cache. It's integrated with Yahoo's Smash It service, which is the most optimum way, I think, of taking images and downsizing them but keeping the quality high. And it automates all that. And it syncs it up with the Amazon CDN. And you have to buy the Amazon service separate. I think it costs $2 a month in that range, $2.50. This is a plugin. It's a must-have plugin for optimization. Well, it's very busy. So you don't want to optimize all the pages on your website. You don't want to optimize just the homepage on your website. What do you want? And most of the literature says 8 to 20 pages is probably good. And so those are the keywords that you want each page. Think about what you're saying. You don't want to come up with a number. If you only have 3 things you want to say about, your website, then you have 3 pages. But the thing is that you have more than one, not just your home page, and you optimize that content for the keywords. Use meta tags for those that you don't, no index and no follow, and also the robots.txt file someone had asked about directs bots away from looking at your pages. The no index, no follow, if someone links to that page, it could be already something that even though the bot didn't see it, it is indexed because of someone else linking to it. This gets the no index, no follow says not to index and not to follow. Another way to help your search engine optimization is sitemaps. I personally do not use sitemaps that often unless my customer asks me for them. I use them as just as for usability, but not for optimization. Google says that having a sitemap will not increase, nor will it reduce your ranking. But it's a way, just another of several, to let Google know what your page is all about. Link building. Link building is the exchange of links. So if you're a new site and you want to play with the big boys, you want to get the big boys to link to you, and vice versa. If you want to up your authority and you're talking authoritatively on the subject, it would be nice to have other sites that talk on your same subject and link to them. So link building is all about the idea of exchanging links between other sites. You can acquire links from lots of your friends or so forth. I'll cover that in a second. But the important thing that Google says is to have diversity in the kinds of links that you acquire. So don't have just links from directories or people. They say to also have your branded name in the text, but also have a variety. So your brand might be your URL, but you could also say if you're, for example, if you sell a product, you might have the product name as part of it. A lot of the folks say that you should have around 35% of your backlinks should have your branding in them. That's the minimum, they say. Google doesn't say anything statistically. They basically say just have a diversity. So in your link, sometimes people will call you out by your URL or your brand. Sometimes they'll call you out by your brand and your product. Sometimes they'll call you out by whatever. So it should be natural so that Google can see that people are coming up with their own ways of getting back to you and not something that you said in a letter, get back to me using this text. Yes, sir.
I have a question. Sometimes when you use the SAF extensions, like for and so on, you have broken links sometimes. Something happened, destroyed the site or whatever it is, and you redirect them through 301 or one of those codes. Does it count? What's the impact on the
Redirected links.
when you have like
Broken links.
Yeah, broken links, and you actually redirect them.
If you do a redirect, that's good. You should do a 301 redirect. There's two types of redirect. 301 says I permanently moved, and you search engine, get your act together. Don't let this happen again. So they like that. Search engines like 301 redirects. 302s said I'm relocating, but it's temporary. I'll still be back where you thought I was. just not right now. Link building, like I said, you could reach out to your to trade associations, the Chamber of Commerce, Better Business Bureau, your friends, some directories that are in your industry, and ask them to link back to your website. Social media. Why should we use social media, or why should it even be considered in your optimization effort? Google and Bing are both sending signals more than, or using social media more than ever in their search algorithms. So it's just one little thing. Remember, you just have to be better than your competition. All things being equal. If your competition has no social media presence and you do, who you think is going to have a better ranking? So social media is becoming more important than it is being considered as far as where you're at in the rank. Some of the social media extensions, there's the Add This module from sharethis.com. It's an HTML snippet. You can just put it in your template, and it appears automatically on every page, just like your print icon or your edit icon. And there's plenty of other widgets, the Twitter widgets. There's a nice, very nice tool that I discovered called, it's a Walls feed. So it's not a widget, but it actually displays your Facebook wall on your page. So on one of my websites for a customer, they get a lot of activity. They're a surf shop, and they get really cool input on their classes that they teach. So they wanted to have some of that activity, or my firm wanted to have some of that activity show up in the sidebar so they can see it, and it's pretty cool. So Wall Feeds by Webcool, it's a cool module. Support is excellent. I had some trouble, and I've never had someone call me up on the phone and ask me how I was doing. And this guy from this Webcool guy called me up. I can't speak more highly about this. The other ones are the buttons and the likes and so forth, the shares. Pinterest, if you haven't heard of Pinterest, it's becoming more popular. I just heard of it maybe 2 months ago when one of my customers said put it on their site. I did, and then on the Today Show, all of a sudden they had a special segment on Pinterest, how popular it is. So if you're not on that, probably should be. Duplicate content. Remember the penguin or the panda. So what is duplicate content? It's the same HTML content or files available via different URLs. You can fix it, and there's a tool called SH404SEF. You can fix it, and these are the things that Google says you can use to fix duplicate content. You can use any or all of them, and I like what they say about duplicate content. I just had to put the quote there at the bottom. It says, if you don't indicate a preference or canonical link, they say, don't worry, we'll take care of it, and we'll identify the link that we think that you want. They seem, and then they say, well, they're coming out with the Panda update that's going to slap your wrist for that. So they seem very nice, but if you want to rank high, you should follow all the rules. One of the rules is don't have duplicate content. Very easy way around that is with this SH404SEF. It uses, it allows you to set your domain, your preferred domain name, www, or with or without. But remember, if you do that, always go to Webmaster Tools and tell Google Tools, Webmaster Tools, what your preferred name is also. And it uses 301 directs whenever it discovers a piece of duplicate content. Yes, sir?
There's a great tool called RagePink, not PageRank, but RagePink.com. You can stick in your website, and it'll tell you whether or not you're doing this properly.
Okay.
If you're coming back with the right response errors, and it's a great way to measure if you're doing this.
What was that tool again?
Rage, R-A-G-E, Pank, P-A-N-K. It's like PageRank, but with the P and the R reversed.
Okay, RagePank.
.com.
Good tool for duplicate content. Thank you.
And then you got to go to the SEO tools section of it.
Okay. So just if you don't know what a search friendly URL looks like in Joomla, or what duplicate content looks like, The first article there, it's they're both Article 38 coming at you via two different menu items. So the article's the same, how you get there is different. Which one do you prefer? And in SH404 SEF, it would show up in the back end by, this is the URL manager, list all your URLs. Some of them might have duplicates. You click on the number 2 there, it says you have 2 duplicates, it shows you what they are. And it allows you to set them. So if you come in with this one, which is not the preferred one, afterwards, after you set it, SH404 SEF will automatically redirect it to this one and issue a 301. So it's really sweet. Can't say more about it, love it. SH404 SEF, the tool for doing all this. So if you do nothing in Joomla, this is what you get, that ugly URL. Joomla is pretty good, you know, just by itself. It allows you, by setting these options, this is Joomla now, to have the category and subcategory be part of your URL. But if you want more control over it than that, then SH404 SEF is what you can do. Aside from friendly URLs, SH404 SEF also helps with duplicate content. I indicated that already. It makes it very easy to put in your title and your description for the page. It's all shows all your pages on one page. It redirects with the 301s, like I said, and it also helps with security. In case you didn't know, it has a honeypot, part of the honeypot project, which is basically, you may see, you know, if you ever had a security issue, URL that comes in is maybe .ru. Well, those, you know, are countries like Russia. I've been caught twice, and also I had a bank. I was masquerading as a bank in Brazil, I think it was. So anyway, these hotspots of activity are known by those people who keep track of this activity. And so if they come into your site, this function looks to see if that IP is one of these not so nice guys, and it disallows them from using your site. $39, it's a great tool. We get, for this presentation, we have 15 coupons for 15% discount if you want to buy SH404 SEF. If you're not familiar with it, it has a couple new things. The Pinterest support. It also has the previous and next for the rel tag for headers for pages. And it also helps you out with your social icons. If you do a site redo, like I've done a lot, you usually have some authority that's already built up in your existing URLs. What do you do with those? You can either keep the same URL on a new site, or you can redirect those old ones to your new site's URL. So those are the two things you should do. Never discard them. Never let them just, you know, don't lose the authority that's already been built up with the old site.
Sorry, what do you mean by a site redo? Does that mean upgrading from one Joomla to another? Yeah.
No, not upgrading. So say that there's a customer that is using not a content management tool,
Right.
and so they have lots of authority out there, and so in other words, you're coming up with a full new infrastructure on the site, all new, you know, pages and titles, but they also have been out there for 5 years, so they have some credibility, some authority. So if you want to maintain that in the new site, you know, you need to maintain that in a new site, and you can either use the old site's URL, which you probably can't do, or you can, you know, redirect it to the new one. One of my customers, so real quickly, so this is getting pretty technical. This is in the Htaccess file. One of the customers, they had a CFM system. What was that? Cold Fusion, I think. So their URLs look like this from their old site, and they also had some URLs that looked like this. They had an ASP site, so they were combining these two sites into one, and they were out there for 10 years, and they had a lot of, you know, they ranked pretty high. So they didn't want to lose that authority. So we were redirecting them with 301 redirects within SH404SCF, but it got to be so large a task for them. She asked, could I make it a little bit easier? So one thing I did was I tagged all these coming in with the, this is inside Htaccess, with a rewrite rule to redirect those to where you would see them inside of the 404 manager, 404 redirects, where it said page moved, followed by, for example, careers. So let's say page moved careers, or it would say page moved English. So it was just an aid to help identify if you have a large site that has been changed.
Did that give you a report of any outstanding pages that needed to be redirected, or did it make it easier if you discovered them, or what was the net effect?
Well, SH404SCF has a 404 reports manager, and so when you cut over, what you should always do is look in there and see what's showing up, and know why it's showing up, and where it's coming from, and then take the appropriate action. So either, go ahead.
What does this do that 404SCF doesn't do?
This works in conjunction with 404. This just helps. So when you see all that stuff in 404, it's sometimes it's overwhelming. And so what this does is, what shows up in 404 is a URL that says, the URL says page moved 1 equals careers. And so rather than having 5,000 of the pages or entries, you might see just one if they're all careers. There might be careers, for different, there might be various ways to get to the careers page. So you would see all those. So it's just a little bit more human-friendly way of maintaining in the SH404 report manager all the 404s that are coming into that area.
You're kind of grouping them by what they have in common.
Exactly.
Could you do that for a number of products? Or would you use that as a wild card for like all your products?
Yeah, that's a good example. If you have a group of products and you want all of those to go now to the new, category of those products, this would be a great way of doing that.
Are you going to have this example on the site?
This is, yes, this presentation will be posted. Just wrapping it up here, the things that I like that I always use lowercase URLs. I don't use the suffix. Under the advanced settings, I use the Htaccess file because some of the things that I put in it, like I just mentioned. I usually use the www instead of the non-www. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you pick one and tell Webmaster Tools that you picked it. And then a nice capability is sometimes you have the home page, which is a little bit different than the rest, and you can automatically switch. This also allows you to identify mobile versus non-mobile, and you can.
Is there any penalty for including the file suffix?
Any penalty for
SEO penalty for including the file suffix in URLs?
I don't think so.
No.
We just had a big discussion. A bunch of us Joomla developers are in a big stack chat, and we all just had this conversation 2 weeks ago. And all the research that all of us did on it, we found that it makes no difference at all. Google and all the other search engines put no weight either way.
There used to be a rumor that Google couldn't crawl database-driven sites. It goes way back, and so people would put these on. And really what happened is when they saw sites with PHP at the end or something, they would slow down their crawl. Sometimes they were pegging databases. But they've never had a problem crawling, and I don't think they care about these things.
And something I heard was that if it's not HTML, don't put an HTML tag on it, because it's really you're it's sort of security by obscurity. If you make it look like it's HTML, somebody will think it's not PHP. But if you don't put an HTML tag on it, it doesn't mean it's not PHP or not HTML either. But that's one of the thoughts that are out there is that if it's not HTML, don't put an HTML tag on it. Just let it be naturally whatever
Bottom line
it's
is the
generated.
page that's generated, when you visit the site, it's HTML.
Correct.
So that's what it is.
Yeah.
Search engines know. That's all they
Yes, sir.
I also wanted to ask if you've been using Joomla's redirect manager component in Joomla 2.5.
I have not.
Okay, because I used to be SH404 SEF head
Bring it
in
on.
my 1.5 days, but there's a component in Joomla 2.5 called the redirect manager. It's under components. It's a native component that catches every 404 redirect for your page. I think they've recently added a counter in terms of the number of hits you're getting on that URL. Allows you to set up 301 redirects, does a whole lot of stuff. And, you know, I was using SH404 SEF for a couple of those basic things, but now that it's in the core, I found that I've been backing. I don't really use SH404 SEF, but I don't have any clients doing any super hardcore SEO either. Right? That might need some more specialized tools.
Yeah, what I found, so what you're saying is, you know, now more and more in the core Joomla, now you have, you know, the category, subcategory, and now there's a new component called
It's redirect
manager.
It's right under components. It's a core component.
And so the core is becoming better and better, but I still favor SH404 SEF. I put on all my websites, if nothing more than just for the honeypot.
Sure.
Well, and with the redirect manager, it sometimes doesn't catch everything. There are some things it will not catch in relation to some of the 404s that are generated because Joomla doesn't necessarily think it's a 404. It's kind of weird. I've had somebody say that it does not catch everything. And with SH404 SEF, it actually looks at duplicate content where the core system does not. So if you have two menu items that are pointing to the same content, SH404 will pick it up, but Joomla will not.
Well, you know, another thing that I'll do too is, you know, to get around that issue with duplicate content, I've started creating canonical menu items. So I have, you know, only one menu item points at that target content, and every other menu item that points at that target content is a menu item alias.
Yes.
And then that allows you to end up with the same.
Yep.
Correct.
As well as keeps your breadcrumbs clean
Yep.
and makes a bunch of other stuff easier too.
But if you want your modules different, then you're sort of,
I don't know.
Kinda screwed.
Yeah, you can't. If you,
well, you could put,
You can't assign it on an alias.
You can't assign
No.
different modules to an alias.
Nope.
this is my favorite. It got me introduced to SEO. I bought this book 3 times. So somewhere in some 2 other airports, it's somewhere in the United States. Another good one, and these are all referenced somewhere in my presentation, is Panda and Penguin.
What was that first one called?
Joomla 1.5 SEO. It's not well written. I actually had to read it like 3 times, but it's full of golden nuggets, most of which I had in my presentation. But I would still recommend it if you're just getting into SEO. You know, some of the how-tos in here may have changed since 1.5 or the newer version of SH404 SEO. They also talk about a Joomla patch in here, which I don't necessarily believe in. I don't even know if it's even available. This one here is Sean Odom and Lynn Allison. It's over 6 million copies sold. It's SEO for 2012 by Odom, O-D-O-M. Advanced Web Metrics, 3rd edition by Brian Clifton. And if you're getting into the Apache mod rewrite, found this little gem out there that's quite helpful.